So how many of you have met someone in the last 24 hours within 3 seconds you knew that you liked them? Raise your hand. And how many of you met somebody you immediately didn't like them? Raise your hand. And how many of you observed neutrality in yourself? Anybody? Okay, a couple, 3, 4 of you. Yeah, this is what we do. We often don't observe ourselves in neutral unless we're programming ourselves to do that. So think of yourselves at the calibration meeting. You know, you've got, let's say that you've got 20 candidates, 13 you know, 7 you don't. Is that the right math? 13 and 7, 20, yeah. And then to notice for yourself in that moment as you're asked to make critical decisions about your succession plan, are you practicing neutral? Or are you reacting to the past? And to what extent does that influence the decisions? Here's a little schema for how that works. Human brain. Any neuroscientists in the room, by the way? Okay, phew. Because when I start talking about the hippocampus and the amygdala, I got to make sure I know who my audience is. And so the hippocampus is where the short-term memory, it goes initially and then turns into long-term memory. So our candidate, by the way, these two out of Columbia University just released a paper October 12th, which was, what, last week. So this is shamelessly borrowed from them. So you see 2 items, A and B. Those 2 items get stored because we're making an association between them. This is not, by the way, in the slides because this just came in a couple days ago. So we have an association of A equals B in the brain. So when I see B, what am I thinking? A, right? And so when we start replacing a memory with, for example, stay-at-home moms. This is June Cleaver. Some of you probably don't even know who that is. But, you know, there's a lot of patterning for people my age particularly around what a good woman looks like. And a good woman is someone who dresses up to take care of the home and is there and making meals and, you know, doing what moms do. And so what happens is that I then associate sort of all images of women with the initial association in my brain. And then when I'm at work, I'm making those associations with professional women with what's in the long-term memory bank. And so interesting study from a couple years ago out of London School of Economics shows, now men, this is not, please, this is just data, that men whose wives don't work have less capacity to rate women as professionally capable than men whose wives do work. So in a planning process, whether it's nominating people for for leadership development or making those critical decisions about who gets on the plan and who doesn't, this has nothing to do with you guys whose wives don't work. This has to do with the way the brain works. But if you don't know this about how the brain works, then no matter how well intended you are, how inclusive a leader you say you are, our unconscious way of making decisions has us rely on that past association rather than on the woman who's in front of us. And by the way, you can put whatever pictures you want up here. You can, just as we said earlier, you know, any grouping that you want to explore. So bias is the process by which the brain uses these mental associations and makes these shortcuts.